Well, spank my ass like I was just born. Square Enix published a tactical RPG in the year of our Lord 2022. Project Triangle Strategy. Triangle Strategy. Revealed in February 2021 with a demo, Triangle Strategy finally released March 4th of this year. Square Enix and Nintendo are publishing the game, but who's actually making it? The big name, sort of, attached to the project is Tomoya Asano, who produced Bravely Default 2, and Octopath Traveler. The actual developer is aught, who didn't work on any of those games. Fans of this channel might remember aught, if I even mentioned it, that they developed the PlayStation ports of Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre. And I think that shows, as I'll discuss later. Fun fact, did you know Square Enix hasn't published a tactical RPG since Tactics Ogre Let Us Clean Together on the PSP in 2010? Mom? And don't bring up Wakfu, because that doesn't count. That's enough edging. Let's get hot and heavy with Triangle Strategy. The combat of Triangle Strategy is built on the foundation of most traditional tactical role-playing games. You've got your isometric camera, you've got your tiles. At first glance, it may not appear to be doing anything revolutionary, and that's because it's not truly revolutionizing anything, but instead happy to iterate on the classics while streamlining what would have been memorized in the past, like enemy movement and attack ranges. It adds its own salty flavor to the combat with its follow-up attack mechanic. If you're in front of an enemy and attack while your ally is behind them, you'll trigger a follow-up attack. Enemies can also initiate this, so positioning your units without taking that into consideration will have dire consequences.
Careless of me. My spear grows heavy.
This simple wrinkle to the combat creates a tactical experience that had me rethinking all of my normal strategies. Thankfully, these new additions to the formula are made manageable by the clear color-coded movement grid. Blue squares are safe. Purple means an enemy will be able to attack you before your next turn, and a helpful red line will show you which one. There's a turn order bar that scrolls at the bottom of the screen that can be manipulated to see when a certain enemy is going to go next. And if you hover over that unit on the map, it will show a number where they are on the turn order. This is probably the easiest to visualize turn order system I've seen to date.
That is incredible job.
And I appreciate it. You have HP in this game, but no MP. TP becomes what other games would consider MP, or ability points. You use your TP to trigger different spells and abilities. You accrue TP every new turn, but can only retain 3 at the beginning of the game. You eventually unlock more ways to restore TP, and about 15 hours in, the game decides to take off the kid's gloves, and you'll soon find out that blowing all your TP at the beginning of a battle isn't a reliable strategy.
I will remember this.
Not a chance!
Each unit is its own class or job. You've got healers, fire mages, knights, and the like. These are to be expected, but there are interesting additions to this game. The Hawk Rider Huet is an archer, but rides, you guessed it, a giant hawk for exceptional mobility. Benedict, my favorite character, is a tactician. He's a support class that buffs strength and mobility early game, but, and they say this in the demo so it's not really a spoiler, has the ability to change the turn order. Anna, the rogue, is by far my favorite to use in combat because she can use 2 actions in 1 turn and then disappear. Triangle Strategy goes out of its way to introduce new and interesting unit types. And while, because you can't use them all at once, I didn't get to explore them all to the extent I would have liked, I do recommend trying each one of them at least once. The strength and weakness of this game is the lack of customization available to you, the player. The game is much more balanced and less breakable than Final Fantasy Tactics because of its more rigid nature. You're on a set path of upgrades for your units, leveling up in the normal fashion on top of weapon upgrades and skill trees. Class upgrades at certain level caps, assuming you have special items to evolve promote them. You can also equip 2 accessories to each unit, but if you were looking for a job system, I'm sorry, you're better off trying to get Benedict to crack a smile.
Hurrah! Hurrah!
The Wolford Lordling is here in his father's stead, I see.
Lord Simon's heroics on the battlefield are the stuff of legend. A pity I couldn't match swords with him today.
When you're not in combat, the rest of the game can be divided into cutscenes and exploration. A huge chunk of the game is story cutscenes. They are fully voiced and are fine.
And humble as well. Are you impressed as I?
Exploration is the more interesting gameplay mechanic that Triangle Strategy has going on. It's not every day you see a tactical RPG with the ability to explore the environment. It's not super fleshed out, but there are many sections where you can get sweet loot, pet cats, and talk to townsfolk. You can gather information from the people in these areas to then use to persuade your party members during the Scales of Conviction segments. Similar to Tactics Ogre, there are many diverging paths in Triangle Strategy, but it's hard to miss the branching nature of the game when it's literally having you vote for its direction. Well, not exactly. You use your wits and info to persuade your party members during these key decisions to go one way or another. There's another mechanic that comes into play during these parts of the game called Conviction. As you do what seem like random things during the game, you'll see a little pop-up that says, Serenoa. Oh yeah, that's the main character's name, by the way. Convictions have strengthened. There are 3 choices during many conversations between liberty, morality, and utility. Not your binary, paragon, and renegade, good/bad morality system, but more akin to the Tactics Ogre, law and chaos. This game is very new, and I also want to go back to playing Elden Ring, so I haven't gone through the conviction system meticulously enough to elaborate on it here. But suffice to say, don't worry about it. If you look too much into the system online, you will spoil some of the story for yourself. You've been warned. I will give you a brief rundown of how the game introduces its story in the very opening cutscene. You've got 3 nations. I wonder if the number 3 is a theme or something. You've got 3 nations in the land of Norzelia vying for power. Glenbrook, who controls the rivers. Aspfrost, that controls the iron, and Hyzant, who controls the salt. 30 years ago, the 3 nations were caught up in a war called the Salt-Iron War. Now, though, they're in an uneasy alliance about to go in on a joint mining venture called the Grand Norzelian Mines. You control Serenoa, who is the son of the Lord of House Wolford. House Wolford is to the royal Glenbrook family what the Starks were in Game of Thrones to the Baratheons. You are to be wed to Frederica from Aspfrost. The marriage is kind of a big deal because it is the first real step in unity between 2 of the 3 kingdoms in some time. Within House Wolford are your trusted allies, Benedict the Tactician,
So, you were here after all.
who was your father's trusted right-hand man during the Salt-Iron War, along with Eredor.
Benedict, I heard you were beset by brigands. Is the young lord safe?
Your father's master-at-arms. I won't go too much more into some of the other characters because there are little story reveals peppered even throughout the early chapters. Again, I won't spoil anything in this review, but I'm going to give my general opinion of the storytelling and tone of the game, so if you consider that a spoiler, feel free to fast forward to the final thoughts.
You didn't say the magic word.
I may do a video later after doing some unfinished business in the game and amend this judgment. If you are hoping for a story with a mature tone, or a story that's going to change your life, maybe don't put those expectations on Triangle Strategy. It's not a bad story, it's not a childish story. There are instances of some pretty fucked up stuff going on, but it never breaks free of the same problem Valkyria Chronicles had. And that problem is that there is no ambiguity,
I dare you to say that again.
no subtext to be read. It's like the inverse of the old adage, show, don't tell. I wish they would have shown less of the villains rubbing their fists and cackling at their own diabolicalness. It's just a little too Saturday morning cartoon for me. Take that how you will. Some people were saying, even after the first demo, that there was too much dialogue. The author is quite verbose, says one character in the game in what I assume was a brief fourth wall breaking moment. I have no issue with long games or long form stories. My main issue with Triangle Strategy may be just a matter of my taste. I don't know if this game actually benefits from voice acting.
Phew, Glenbrook at last. Finally, we can take a moment of respite from our long journey.
Not to say any of the performances were bad, but the anime level of subtlety of the performances might have been what took away potential for more nuance to the characters. I can interpret plain unvoiced text multiple ways, but when someone is reading dialogue in the voice of Xehanort, I can only hear it one way. You get my drift?
Serenoa Walford, we thank you for your gracious gesture. We are overjoyed.
I really enjoyed Triangle Strategy. I have my issues with the story, but I don't think it took away from my overall impression of the game. There's still some really memorable characters here. Love you, Benedict. The combat is addictive. It constantly adds new elements over the course of the game, and in doing that, has added new elements that could be used in tactical RPGs in the future. The music, while nothing to write home about, is well done background music that doesn't grate after extended play sessions. I am a sucker for the 2D HD graphics, but this is also on the Switch, so you're going to get a little framey. What I take away from the game is that tactical RPGs are still alive. The lack of customization may sadden those looking for a successor to Final Fantasy Tactics' job system, but it does ensure balanced battles for most of the game. Triangle Strategy is a meaty, salty, and refreshing tactical RPG. And Avlora is really hot. Hi, it's Evan here from the Tactical RPG Odyssey. I'm standing on a couch. If you've never watched my channel before, thank you for watching. For the 10 people who do watch my channel, I'm sorry. I'm also sorry. I'll get back to the Matsuno arc in just a little bit, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to review Triangle Strategy, since my demo reviews did those endgame numbers. And if you think about it, Triangle Strategy is tangentially related to Matsuno because it's also a Square-published tactical RPG. Take that with a grain of salt.